Alright guys, welcome back to another video. So this is going to be, I'm going to kind of show you my bobber salmon setup here before we actually get into salmon season, because once I start making salmon videos, I'm sure I'm going to get, a bunch of people commenting, oh, what rod are you using, what gear are you using, and so, because I usually do, and so then I can just, in the comments, you can ask me what I'm using on one of those videos, and I'll just drop a link to this video. So if you hear from that, thanks for coming over here. So what I'm using here for my salmon, I'm going to go over my little setup. So for the rod, looking to get a salmon rod, really, brands aren't a huge thing if you're just trying to find a rod that will get the job done. There's a lot from, higher end brands like Lamy Glass or G Loomis or these Okumas. All the way down to like a little Walmart rod or something, or a little bass rod, which I've used and caught fish on, little cheap spinning rods or whatnot. But, you just need something for these fish, and this is for chinook particular, something pretty heavy, something that's got a little bit of length to it. So this here, what I'm actually using is the Okuma Guide Select Pro. And these are actually great rods. They're pretty good price. They're like 150 bucks. So they're not super expensive, but you're spending enough money to get some quality gear. And that's something that I like to do. Spend, over $100, so it's quality gear, but it's not like super high-end, super expensive stuff that, you might break on the river and then go, oh crap, I just broke a $500 rod. Instead, it's 150 bucks, and they actually have a great warranty on them. But yeah, these Okuma Guide Select Pro, that's what I use for salmon and steelhead. And this one in particular is this model is a 9'2". And so when you're going for a rod, I'd recommend something 9 foot or bigger, or 9 foot or longer, I should say. Just because it makes it easier to mend. You got this bobber out there, sometimes you're making long casts depending on how big the river is. You got a bunch of line out there. You want to be able to pick that line up, keep it off the water, get a good mend. So something like 9 foot or longer. This is a 9'2". This one is 8 to 17 pounds. And this is a pretty stiff rod actually. I just got this one. I was using a 6 to 12, one of the 6 to 12 ones, and getting my butt whooped by some big chinooks. So I switched over, or I went out and picked up this 8 to 17, which these rods are actually designed more for steelhead. But this 8 to 17 is actually a pretty heavy rod, so I'm going to be using it for salmon. But something you want something with some beef to it. I've seen guys use 20 to 50 rods, 20 are rated upwards of like 50 pounds. But something in like the 10 to 20 is a good place to start. It would say on the 10 to 20 pounds, or 10 to like this one's 8 to 17, somewhere in there. Something that is going to be able to handle these big fish that can get up to 20 some pounds. And so something, you want to have something with a little bit of backbone to it. And then like, again, back with that length, you want something with a little bit of length, make it easier to mend, and then you want some power. And then for the reel on here, now you can go spinning reel, you can go bait casting reel. I'm a big fan of bait casters. I always love them. I don't really own too many spinning reels. My rods me personally, I only actually fish with one spinning setup, and it's a little steelhead setup. For bobber fishing steelhead, but most of my rods are bait casters now, and I like them because they're quick, they're easy. It's the button is right here, it's a click and a click. I can actually do it one-handed, so it's a really easy and really simple. You don't have to worry about flipping the bail. I've missed a lot of fish on bobbers because my bail wasn't flipped over when I went to set the hook, or I went to flip the bail and it didn't come over all the way. And then when you set, it flips back, or my line gets wrapped, around there, and I don't notice it. And I've had some issues with spinning rods and bobber fishing. So, like a bait cast, you can push the button, let line just, run off, and then your bobber goes down, and you're right here, super quick to click and set the hook. So it's really effective, really simple for me, easy with a bait caster. Now, if you're a beginner and you don't know how to cast a bait caster, obviously go with a spinning reel. It's going to be a little easier. But if you're familiar with bait casters, or even if you want to start trying one, they're really great for bobber fishing. And then I like a little faster gear ratio reel too. You know, a lot of people, like I'm a bass fisherman, and you know, bass fishing gear ratios and bass are kind of like something people do. Different techniques, they want fast gear ratios, different techniques, they want slow gear ratios. So, but in salmon, I never really paid attention to that a lot, but now I really like to make sure I have a little bit faster gear ratio, because these fish can swim fast, and you don't want them, you know, to take a run right towards you and not be able to pick up some line. So most spinning reels are going to be pretty slow, but you just kind of have to deal with it. But for a bait caster, I'll get something at least like 7-1-1. This one here is 7-2-1. You know, get something a little quicker, so if that fish makes a run towards you, you can pick up line quick, and it doesn't get any slack to spit the hook. Because most of these reels are barbless, so you know, those fish get any kind of slack in there, and they're gonna that hook's gonna pull right out or pop right out. So you want to make sure to pick up all that line real quick, and make sure there's no slack in the line when you're fighting those fish. And then you also want something powerful. You know, you don't want to go out and buy some cheap little reel that's gonna hook one fish and you're gonna blow it up. You want something a little bit more quality. This is Shimano Cannon. They actually don't even make these anymore. It was, I think they retailed about $80 to $100 when they actually made them, but they don't make them anymore. So you can't get this one. But you know, I love Shimano. Like a Shimano SLX would be a good one, around $100, $120 for a reel. And then it's with spinning reels, same thing. Most of the time, my spinning reels I use, because I don't use very many, I just buy cheap ones, and then you catch, you know, 4 or 5 good fish on it, and they burn it up, and then you got to go buy another one. So it's almost better to spend more money on your equipment to make sure that when you do hook up fish, your equipment's not going to fail. So something that's got some decent quality to it, that's not going to fail when you hook a big salmon. And then for the line, I like to go a little bit heavier. This is 40 pound. I see people running like 20 pound braid or 30 pound braid. I like to go at least 40 pound braid, just because the heavier braid is thicker, so it floats on the water, which makes mending easier. And of course, these are bigger fish, so heavier braid I like. And then this braid here is actually that bright yellow, and you can go with any color you want, really. Because these fish aren't really going to see the line as much, because you're going to have a leader on, so you know, they're not going to be super paying attention to your main line, you know, super closely. And so I like that bright yellow, so I can see it across the river, and I can make sure, you know, I don't have a bunch of bow in my line. I have a good straight mend. It's just a visual thing. I can see it a lot better, and I don't know, I like it. And then usually what I do with this is I black out, take a Sharpie and black out the couple, 4, 5, 6 feet of this line. I'll take a Sharpie, run it up, and black it out. Just so that way, when I do set my bobber, if I have to set my bobber stop way up, it's you know, that line is blacked out a little bit, so it's not bright yellow. But like I said, underneath here, you're gonna have a fluorocarbon leader anyway, so most of the time they're not paying attention to your main line anyway. So yeah, then we get down to the bobber. I'll go over this quick because this video is taking a while. So bobber stop, got a little bead in there, a bobber. And for Chinook, you know, usually you're fishing a little deeper, heavier pools, you know, trying to find these fish that are sitting. These Chinook like the deeper water, so I like to use a heavier bobber, especially if you're fishing like a big glob of eggs too, get it down there. Heavier bobber, this is like a 3/4 ounce bobber. I just got a big hunk of pencil lead right there. You can use anything to weight it down. You just want to make sure that whatever your bobber is, you match it with the weight. So if it's a 1/2 ounce, you want to match it with a 1/2 ounce weight. If it's 3/4, you want to match it with 3/4. So an easy way to do it is like I have here a piece of pencil lead. You can just buy a big roll of pencil lead like that and cut it down really easy. So I can cut it down to match. And you know, throw it in a swimming pool, throw it in a sink, or if you're doing it at the river, throw it in the river and just cut off a big piece, and then you can cut it down slowly till you get the right weight. And so that's about a 3/4 ounce right there. And then I have, that's kind of connected with a swivel system. Then I have a swivel to tie my leader on. And for my leader, you know, for Chinook, a big thing under bobber is eggs. You know, you're going to see a lot of people bobbering eggs for Chinook. That's a great one. You know, bobbering eggs, and you could add some shrimp, some sand shrimp, some coon shrimp with those eggs. Works really, really well. Or early in the season like this, when I'm out of eggs, I don't really have any eggs from the previous season. And you can always buy store-bought eggs. But, I like to cure my own and, get my own recipe, get my own, secret stuff in there. So early in the season like this, I actually fish a lot of beads. This is a 20 millimeter soft bead right here. A couple different colors. I like to use like that one's like they call it shrimp. It's kind of like a off colored orange. There's like a pink one right there. There's another good one right there, orange one. So for beads, I like to just use the big bright colored beads and just get those fish's attention. And really a lot of times I don't think they're eating these beads, to eat them. It's more that it's in their face, it's annoying them, and they get mad at it and want to kill it. And that's why they actually eat this stuff. So these bigger beads like that, they just annoy these fish better. You can use smaller beads too. You could use a 12 millimeter bead and catch a salmon all day long. But these bigger ones, I just feel like it makes them mad. It gets their aggression a little bit more with these bigger beads. So 20 millimeters, they have 25, and I think there's like 32 millimeters even now out there. But 25 millimeter bead is going to be plenty big enough for, most situations. Usually I just fish like a 20. Those ones I showed you there. But yeah, and I just run a couple feet a leader off that bobber. Usually about 20 pound fluorocarbon for a leader is pretty dang good. That will last you, or that will get you some fish. I sometimes run 15 if I'm around smaller fish. I think the fish are a little more line shy. I run 15 pound fluoro. You just got to keep in mind that when you hook a big one, you've only got 15 pound fluoro, so got to be careful and you can't pull quite as hard on them. But 20 pound fluoro is my kind of go-to, and then if you're on bigger fish, you can go up to 25 or 30 pound fluorocarbon if you're on some big, 20 plus pound fish. But I like to stick around 20 pounds. So yeah, beads is kind of what I start off with, and then after you get a couple hens, you can cure some eggs up, start fishing with some eggs. But anyway, that's a little setup. Something this probably took half hour, but that's my setup and what I use for these fall chinooks. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.